Hello, it's Jay here and welcome to another tutorial. In this lesson we're going to set up the enemy GameObject before we continue on with the enemy AI scripts, and we do this in order to be able to test the script out as we complete the various functions within it. Now, I've already imported the Tyrant Zombie package from the Assets store. I believe there's a revised version of this model now, but it's only $5 and it's a very good model. So I'm going to come into my scene a little way from my FPS controller. I'm just going to hit the sun icon at the top here just to disable the lighting, just so I can see what I'm doing a lot better while we set this up. So first thing to do, let's drag and drop this character into the scene. Now, whichever model you decide to use, and you may all want to use different models, please make sure that it has the necessary animations. So as you can see, we have a couple of attack, a couple of damage, one for death, idle, run, and 2 for walk. We don't necessarily need 2 for walk, but just make sure that whichever model you use has an equivalent animation set. So there he is in the scene, and he's far too small. So the first thing I'm going to do is click on the prefab here. Under the model tab, I'm going to change the scale factor, and I'm just going to give this a value of 1, and I'll hit apply. And if you have to adjust the scale factor again, depending on what model you're using, it may be different numerically to what I'm using here, and I may adjust these values later on. But I'll just set it as a value for 1 for now, and we'll come back here and we'll untick play automatically on the animation function, because we're going to tell it when to play animations in code. So there we hit. And the next thing we have to do is add a tag. So I'm going to come here and I'm going to hit add tag and hit the little plus icon here. And we'll give this a tag of enemy. We'll enter, and now it should be selectable in the tab drop down, and here it is. And if any of you are unfamiliar with tags, don't worry, we'll be referencing this tagging code later, and I'll be able to go over it in more detail then. And next thing we'll do is come to add component, and we'll come to physics, and we want a character controller. This is what we'll be referencing when it comes to moving the enemy. And as you can see, it's halfway through the ground here, so we'll need to adjust the values, and I'm actually going to double the height, and I'm going to give it a Y value in the center here of 2. And what we want is so it's just where the feet end and just at the top of the head. So as you can see, it's still not big enough, so let's give it another value. I think 6 may be a bit too much. Let's try 5, and we'll try a value of 2.5. Okay, that's a little closer, but it's still not quite big enough. So let's try 5.5 and 2.75. Okay, that's about right. As you can see, it's just encompassing the top of the head and the bottom of the feet, and you can spend more time and get these values really exact, but I'm just going through this quickly. And we also need to adjust the radius slightly. Let's try a value of 0.6, and it just encompasses the body. So this is what we'll be referencing in code later when it comes to actually moving the enemy model. And next thing we're going to do is come to add component, physics, and we need a sphere collider. Now this is what's going to activate our finite state machine. So we want to check is trigger, because that's what it's going to do. It's going to trigger our finite state machine to become active. And as you can see, there's our sphere collider, and I'm going to raise it up to about the middle of the model, and I'm going to adjust the radius of, let's make it a value of 15. Now this will be different for each and every one of you, this radius, depending on what type of scene you have. Ideally, we want the enemy AI script to activate when the player enters this sphere, and we want to do it just before the player can see the enemy. So if you have a scene where the player can see a great distance, this collider will need to have a very large radius. But in another case, let's say you have an extremely foggy scene and the player can't see the enemy until he's right up close, you may want to keep this sphere very small. So again, it will be different for each and every one of you based on your scene, the way you've set it up. So, you know, please don't use the values. This is just what we're going to use for testing, but please go ahead and experiment and find a value that is correct for your project. And now we have that in place, all we need to do is attach the enemy AI script, and again we'll come to add component and we'll add an audio source. And I'll just untick play on awake, because in later lessons we're going to add audio to our enemy AI script as well. And I think we'll leave it there for this lesson. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope to see you next time, and until then, bye for now.